Well, good afternoon. I'm Bud Liebler, Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Chrysler. Thanks for coming out this afternoon. We appreciate it. We have an important message we'd like to get out to you. Today we are announcing an unprecedented action that is going to put the issue of Chrysler minivan liftgate latches behind us. We are not taking this action because the latch is defective. We're doing this because of the growing concern and awareness surrounding this issue, which is causing a concern among our owners. That is something we do not want and cannot have. Now, before we detail our action, I'd like to provide you with a little bit of background for those of you who might not be aware of some of the elements of this issue. In October of 1993, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration began an investigation into the alleged opening of Chrysler minivan rear liftgates in crashes. This investigation was initiated after a very tragic and highly visible accident involving unbelted children in a Chrysler minivan in the Washington, D.C. area. Now, as you may know, the process that NHTSA follows in its investigations begins first with the preliminary evaluation, or PE, as it's known. In the case of the Chrysler minivan latch, NHTSA opened a preliminary evaluation of 1991 to 94 minivans following that Washington incident. This represented a population of some 1.8 million units. During the PE period, NHTSA's primary objective is simply to compile information, and Chrysler cooperated fully in this phase of the investigation, as we have, in fact, in every phase of this investigation since it started. The duration of a preliminary evaluation is normally about 120 days, after which the agency must decide whether to close the investigation or to move it to the next level, which is the engineering analysis, or the EA stage. In the case of the Chrysler minivan investigation, near the end of the PE period, NHTSA informed us that it wanted to review more data before making a decision. So this necessitated moving the investigation to the engineering analysis level. At the same time, NHTSA expanded the case to cover all pre-1995 Chrysler minivans dating all the way back to the original in 1984. In this EA period, NHTSA has conducted its investigation in three specific areas. First has been an evaluation of anecdotal evidence, which includes, for the most part, tragic accidents that have been brought to the attention of NHTSA either by referral or by direct input. The second area of the investigation deals with the analysis of real-life accident data compiled from the government's own Fatal Accident Reporting System, or FARS as it's known, and National Accident Sampling System, or NAS. The third area of the investigation has been related to laboratory-conducted latch strength tests and dynamic crash tests. Now, throughout this investigation, Chrysler has maintained that there is no safety defect in our minivan latches, and we continue to believe that today. But even more important is that during the 18-month period of intense investigation in these three areas, there has been no finding of defect by NHTSA. In fact, much of the data has confirmed that as a category, minivans are among the safest vehicles on the road today, and Chrysler minivans are among the safest of all minivans. Now, here's just a brief look at the government's own data. Let's start with overall fatalities. This chart, there it is, summarizes the risk of death in different types of vehicles per 100 million vehicle miles driven. This data that's on the screen represents in the 1984 to 92 model years, as reported by the government's Fatal Accident Reporting System, or FARS, as I mentioned earlier. As you can see on the chart, minivans as a category are among the safest vehicles on the road today, and clearly, Chrysler minivans are among the safest of all minivans. There are fewer fatalities in a Chrysler minivan than all but the comparatively low-volume VW Vanagon and Toyota Previa. By the way, copies of these slides, as well as my remarks, will be available to you following this briefing. Now, Since this investigation has centered specifically upon liftgate openings, government data has been used to look into this area too. On the next slide, you see hatch and liftgate openings per 100 crash vehicles over the 84 to 92 model years. It shows that liftgate openings occur less frequently in minivans than in other categories of vehicles with liftgates or hatches. And further data shows even less often in Chrysler minivans. According to this NAS, remember that's the National Accident Sampling System data, a liftgate opening is almost 3 times more likely to occur in a crash in a hatchback car than it is in a minivan. If Chrysler had an inordinate number of liftgate openings, it would show up in the government's accident data. It does not. Second, if there were a high number of liftgate openings, you'd think that this would lead one to believe that there would also be a higher number of ejections, injuries, and fatalities. Well, let's take a look at ejections and fatal accidents. This next chart summarizes the rate of ejections in different types of vehicles. As you can see, Chrysler minivans have an excellent rating compared with all passenger cars and all other minivans. Finally, and here's one that really opened all of our eyes because we're all parents, the government's own data clearly proves that ejections, as rare as they are, can still be reduced dramatically, and I mean dramatically, when occupants are in seats and properly belted. That is not new news to anybody. This slide shows what happens when you buckle up and when you don't buckle up. In fact, NHTSA agrees that the single best way to protect vehicle occupants in violent crashes is to have them properly seated and properly belted. As I said, that isn't new news to us or to anybody else. Now, this is just a small snapshot of the data trail that NHTSA has been following for these past 18 months. It shows that clearly minivans as a category are among the safest vehicles on the road today, and Chrysler minivans are among the safest of all minivans, no matter which criteria you use, be it overall safety records, risk of liftgate openings, or risk of ejection. And that is not just Chrysler's data. That's what the government data shows. But unfortunately, real-world data is only part of this story. Here's another part. Take a look at this clip.
Calls tonight for improved safety features on Chrysler minivans, and in the wake of a horrific crash, questions from a grieving family. CFTO's Pat Foran reports.
And there were presents up in my closet that are all wrapped, ready to give my son for his birthday that he's never going to have this year.
The Benici family of Caledon is still in shock over the death of their 3-year-old son Thomas and their 3-year-old neighbor Natalia Bites. Both children died when 3 minivans collided Friday at a Caledon intersection.
We got here, there's bodies all over the place.
Emery Kinsey is a tow truck operator, the first person on scene after Friday's fatal crash.
Mother came up screaming at the gentleman in the gray van there. You killed my kids, you killed my kids.
I apologize for the quality of the sound on that tape, and I also apologize for the fact that you had to look at it, because it isn't pleasant for any of us. It's a very painful thing to see. But I think you get the point. In the case of this violent and tragic accident in the Toronto area, while the investigation is not entirely complete, all the indicators show that the factors responsible for the tragic death of those 2 young children had absolutely nothing to do with the integrity of our liftgate or latch mechanism, nor had anything to do with the safety of our minivan at all. In fact, this was confirmed by Transport Canada, the Canadian counterpart of NHTSA. But by the time this information came to light, perceptions and concerns were already elevated. There were 26 televised reports on that accident that we know of within just a 2-day period. And as I said, this is just one example. Over the past 5 months, this scenario has been repeated a number of times throughout this country. From the viewpoint of our customers, it does absolutely no good for us to complain about unfairness, questionable sources, accuracy, or data. The simple fact of the matter is that such coverage, whether it's warranted or unwarranted, causes tremendous concerns for our family of minivan owners, and that is our family. Make no mistake about it. And when our owners raise concerns about the well-being of their families, we have an obligation to act. We have that reputation in the marketplace, and we believe it's what owners have come to expect of us. In fact, they've told us that. It's why they put their faith in Chrysler and in our products in the first place. Therefore, we're announcing the following action today. Among the many things that Chrysler is known for, one of the strongest and one in which we take terrific, tremendous pride and will do everything in our power we can to maintain is the care of our customers. Therefore, effective immediately, we will launch the following owner service action. By the end of this week, we will begin contacting all of our minivan owners to offer to replace the rear liftgate latches for the model years 1984 through 1994 at no charge to them. Since our 1995 model minivans have a different latch mechanism, they are not included in this action. But let me repeat, by the end of this week, we will begin contacting all of our minivan owners for model year 84 to 94 to offer to replace the rear liftgate latches at no charge to them. Now, obviously, it's going to take us several months to produce a sufficient quantity of latches and to provide them to our dealerships. Owners will be notified a second time as soon as the new latches arrive in their individual dealerships. We can't be specific as to the time period, but today we believe this will begin to happen within 30 days and should be completed within a year. Owners of 1990 through 94 Chrysler minivans will receive the same type of latch as used on our 95 minivans. A modified latch system is required for the 84 through 89 minivans. Further, any minivan that is serviced at a Chrysler, Plymouth, or Dodge dealership for any reason over the next few years will also be offered a new latch, assuming that vehicle doesn't have one already. We will go to some extraordinary lengths to assure that our minivan owners are notified, including national print and television advertising beginning tomorrow. Therefore, we believe that awareness of this action will be considerably higher than a normal NHTSA prescribed safety recall, which this isn't. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration commends this Chrysler action with a statement from the agency's administrator, Dr. Ricardo Martinez. I'd like to read a brief excerpt from his letter. I am pleased with Chrysler Corporation's decision to replace the rear liftgate latches on its 1984 to 94 Dodge Caravan, Plymouth Voyager, and Chrysler Town & Country minivans with new, stronger latches. This action will improve the safety of these vehicles at no cost to owners and alleviate the concerns that have been raised regarding the performance of the latches in crashes. Your willingness to take this action demonstrates safety leadership and a recognition of the importance of safety to your customers. As you know, safety is a leading consumer concern and NHTSA's primary mission. The NHTSA investigation has been a very long and difficult 18 months for Chrysler, especially because we remain convinced that there is absolutely no defect in our minivan liftgate latches. We're taking the action that we're announcing today because of the concerns the investigation and the surrounding attention has caused our minivan owners. We're doing what we believe is right for our owners, our customers, and that is taking an action that we believe will give them peace of mind and will continue to allow the trust and confidence in our products that we have worked so very long and so very hard to provide.